How you all doing, guys? Brandon here from RetroDodo.com, and as you can probably tell from the title, I'm going to talk about why you shouldn't buy the Nintendo Switch Lite and why you should probably buy the original Nintendo Switch. Now, this is nothing against the Nintendo Switch Lite. In fact, I prefer it over the Switch because of my personal preferences of it being smaller, lighter, cheaper, and more portable. But in reality, you could probably find the Switch about $50 more than the Switch Lite. And in terms of what it can do, that should be a no-brainer because the Switch can do so much more than the Switch Lite. So if you're new to the Switch Lite because it only came out a few days ago, it's a smaller Switch Lite. It's got a smaller screen. It has no Joy-Cons. It has no dock, so you can't connect it to your TV. It is basically a one-player handheld similar to the old PSP, for example. Whereas the Nintendo Switch original comes with a dock. It comes with Joy-Con, so you can play up to like 8 players or 2 players if you're just taking out the Switch. And in my personal opinion, you are getting a lot more, and it is completely worth your $50. Now, the Switch Lite is going to be for someone that wants to buy a console for themselves. It's going to be someone who wants to play games on their own, on the go. They want it to be light. They want it to be a bit more, durable. And the fact that it's got a slightly better screen means that you can get a bit more immersed. And it's not one that you can play with friends on. Admittedly, you can connect Joy-Cons to this, so if you do want to play in like a dock mode, you can, but it has no stand, which comes with the original Nintendo Switch here. So in reality, you're gonna have to, hold it up on anything you can find, a table, a glass, anything, and then connect your Joy-Cons. But even then, you need to take extra Joy-Cons with you, which means extra weight and extra baggage. It's just not worth doing that because this is very much a handheld that you buy for yourself or you buy for someone that wants to play one-player games on their own on the go. Whereas the big Nintendo Switch here is one that you can play with family members, and it's one you can take around on Christmas and, play with the whole family. And because it's got the Joy-Cons as well, you just simply take them off, bang out your Switch stand here, and you can play 2-player on the bus, the train, etc. Now, the cons with that is that it's bigger. You're getting a much bigger screen, you're getting a lot more weight, and yes, you will probably have to buy a few accessories for this, like a case and a place to put extra Joy-Cons, etc., because it's a much bigger console, and if you do want to play with friends, you're just generally going to have to take more stuff anyway. Now, compared to the Switch Lite, in my personal opinion, people are just going to chuck that in their bag with no case. It's a cheaper, more affordable handheld that you don't really care about risking it getting damaged. And even if you break something on here, you just get it replaced. Whereas if you break a Joy-Con on here, I know for a fact the Joy-Cons are very, very expensive. So there's pros and cons to them both, but overall you're getting a lot more for your buck when you buy the original Switch. It's got a much bigger screen as well, so if you do a bit of typing on here where you're putting in your details or you're chatting, it's a lot easier, and it's just generally a much bigger, pleasing handheld to play games with. And even if you do want to play on your own, like one player, this is completely immersive as well. But in terms of what you're getting, the Nintendo Switch should be a no-brainer in my personal opinion. And it comes down to that reason, like when you buy a £50 game for the Switch Lite, are you truly getting everything out of that game because you can't use the Joy-Cons? For example, if you buy Pokemon Let's Go or Zelda Breath of the Wild, you can actually use the Joy-Cons to catch Pokemon or attack and stuff like that. So you're almost getting a new part of the game that you can experience through the Nintendo Switch, which you can't do on the Nintendo Switch Lite. So you're definitely getting more experience through that game when you spend your £50 or your $50 on it, whereas the Nintendo Switch Lite, it's almost what I call two-dimensional. You're playing through the analog, you're playing through the buttons, and that's it. Whereas the Nintendo Switch, you can go into full Pokemon catch mode, you can use it to race, you can use it to attack, and it's a lot more immersive, and you're almost getting a 3D experience through the Switch, which you can't do through the Switch Lite, which is, again, for some people, it's a great big feature that they don't want to miss out on, especially the kids when they're in dock mode. Another reason which obviously might change over the coming years, which I don't honestly know about, but the Nintendo Switch Lite is a lot more customizable. It's harder to take apart. I know a few guys have taken it apart, but whereas the Nintendo Switch is a lot easier to change the back shell, for example, which I've done many of times amongst the channel. It's easier to change the Joy-Con shells, which you can remove, and instead of risking a whole console if you want to pimp it, you're just risking the cost of one Joy-Con should you accidentally break it when you customize it. But it's a lot more easier to customize and make it yourself. So if you wanted to change the buttons, if you wanted to switch up the analog sticks or the shells, you can do just that. Whereas the Nintendo Switch Lite, it's a lot riskier to change anything on here. Like, you can change the faceplate, but you need to get right into it and obviously look at some teardowns, which my boy Elliot Cole has done. And it's just a lot harder to modify in a way that I like doing on the channel. As you know, I like pimping these consoles. I like buying new shells, back plates, etc. But for the Lite, it's a lot harder, and I wouldn't really risk doing it because it's a lot trickier than you think, and a lot trickier than the original Nintendo Switch to customize. But I know they're coming out with a few editions like the Pokemon edition, which looks really cool, but then again, it's a whole new console. Whereas if you wanted to make this a Pokemon edition like I did, you could probably do that for around about $50 to $100, and it looks absolutely insane. Whereas the Nintendo Switch Lite, you'd have to buy a whole new console. Admittedly, you could decal it up, you could add some stickers, but it's no way going to be as premium as a whole custom console. So that's another reason, if you'd like to pimp your Nintendo Switch, definitely go for an original, because you can take it apart and it's somewhat easy. You know, they've made it somewhat easy to do, and there's tons of instructions and how-tos out there to be able to pimp your console. Going into comfortability, I've read a few things where people are saying the Switch Lite's more comfier, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, they're extremely similar. You know, you're not going to really know if you're holding a Nintendo Switch Lite for an hour or an original Switch for an hour. But if you were to like go down the route of which one's more comfortable for immersion, yes, it's the original Switch because it's bigger. It's got slightly bigger Joy-Cons, you know. It's got that old school D-pad, which some of you like. I know some of you like the original D-pad, which is on the Switch Lite here. But then you've got these weird buttons as well on the original Nintendo Switch. But the Switch is bigger, more immersive, more, you could say more comfortable hold, because you've got like all that space back here to kind of put your hands, whereas the Nintendo Switch Lite, you know, your hands are like kind of wrapped around it, but you know, just bring it closer to your face. When people say the Switch Lite is more comfortable, I don't personally believe them. They're so damn similar that I don't think you should really be taking that into consideration. But if you are an adult and you want to be more immersed, go for the bigger handheld. But for kids and, you know, quick gameplay, pick up and play, the Switch Lite is probably a go-to for that reason. So rounding off the video, I don't want you guys to be here forever. There's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't buy the Nintendo Switch Lite over the Nintendo Switch. Mainly, first of all, is because it's one player. You can't play with friends. 2, the screen is smaller, which means less immersion. And 3, the lack of Joy-Cons, meaning you can't enjoy games to the full. And for that, for just a $50, $70 difference, I really do think you guys should pick up the Nintendo Switch if you're looking to. Or if you've got a Nintendo Switch, don't downgrade to the Switch Lite, because in my personal opinion, it's not worth it. But for me, it is, because I just want those one-player games. I don't care about the Joy-Con gestures and stuff. I just want to be immersed. I want it to be slim, I want it to be light, and I want it to be portable. So if that is you want portability, obviously a Switch Lite, but for $50 more, you can get the Joy-Cons, you can play with friends, you can go over your families for Christmas and enjoy 2 to 8 player games straight from the Nintendo Switch. And obviously you get the dock and all the cool customization features that you can do on yourself if you want to pimp the Nintendo Switch. So there you go, guys, a kind of a ramble of a video, but I thought I'd put it up because I know a lot of you will be thinking of downgrading to the Switch Lite, which I don't advise. And if some of you are picking up a Switch for Christmas, pick up the original Switch because it's much better and it's worth every penny extra over the Switch Lite. As per usual, guys, thanks for watching. If you want to see me pimp the Nintendo Switch Lite into something like this, definitely subscribe because I will be doing that, and I can't wait to play more on the Nintendo Switch Lite and give you guys a lowdown of what I will be pimping with next. So as per usual, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.